redecorating to my recording studio. Rearranged some stuff, put some new pennants up, and, well, I've kept these same pennants as well, as you can see. See what I mean? But anyway, so you may have noticed that I started a new playlist called WNBA Vlogs. And there's a reason for that. Because I'm friends with several YouTubers. Gangrene David, who is a rabid New York Jets YouTuber. Norbcam, who is a diehard Seattle Seahawks fan, which I am hereby formally inviting both of you, Norbcam and Gangrene David, to join me on an episode of my show, The Sports Room, and we can just talk football, Seattle Seahawks, New York Jets, Cleveland Browns, various other topics. Maybe we'll talk about some of the stuff that's happening in the country right now, stuff like that. So I am hereby formally inviting you guys. But I'm also friends with a rabid Baltimore Ravens fan, Ingraven Vids. And yeah. But one thing I've noticed about YouTube is I haven't seen anybody really discuss the WNBA, which, for those of you who don't know, is the Women's National Basketball Association. And I figured, well, that's a shame. Just because WNBA players can't exactly do all the same things as the NBA does, doesn't mean it's not as exciting. Like, you don't know if you haven't been to a WNBA game, you don't know if you're going to have as much fun at that as you do at an NBA game. So my suggestion would be, if you get the opportunity to, go watch a WNBA game. I've watched them plenty of times on TV. They are great. From the Minnesota Lynx to the Los Angeles Sparks, Atlanta Dream, Indiana Fever, Chicago Sky, Dallas Wings, Washington Mystics, New York Liberty, Phoenix Mercury, Seattle Storm, Connecticut Sun. It's just basketball. So I don't see it. Oh, and we've got a question from my friend Ronnie Fadul. Hi, Josh. How do you feel about the NBA's return and the WNBA? What do you think of the MLB situation? That is a great question, Ronnie. And those are great questions, I should say. And I'm going to answer them in parts. How do I feel about the NBA's return? So, again, like I said, great question. And I have mixed emotions about it. Yes, I love that the NBA is returning, but what I don't love is that only 22 of the 30 teams are returning. And it's not even evenly split between those 22 teams. It's 13 teams from the West and 9 teams from the East. From the East, you got the top 8, so I believe it's Milwaukee, Toronto, Boston, Indiana, Miami. Who else is in there? Let me check super quick. Let me check using my NBA app. I don't want to screw this up. I don't remember the exact standings, but I know it's Toronto, Milwaukee. Hold on. Okay, from the East, in order, it's Milwaukee, Toronto, Boston, Miami, Indiana, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Orlando, and Washington. Those are the 9 teams that will be going to the playoffs from the Eastern Conference. From the Western Conference, it's going to be the LA Lakers, unfortunately, the LA Clippers, Denver Nuggets, Utah Jazz, Oklahoma City Thunder, Houston Rockets, Dallas Mavericks, Memphis Grizzlies, Portland Trail Blazers, New Orleans Pelicans, Sacramento Kings, San Antonio Spurs, and the Phoenix Suns. So the only teams getting left out in the West are the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Golden State Warriors. Meanwhile, in the East, the teams getting left out are Charlotte, Chicago, New York, Detroit, Atlanta, and unfortunately, the Cleveland Cavaliers, because we had the worst record in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, we had a worse record than the freaking New York Knicks. That's pathetic. How can we have a worse record than the Knicks? Come on. They are one of the worst run franchises I've ever seen. And yet somehow we're worse than them. Come on. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just garbage. Okay, I know I just went on a little bit of a Knicks tangent, but sorry. Doug Blecker, if you're watching and you want to come on and talk New York Knicks with me at some point, I am hereby also formally inviting you to come on to an episode of Sports Room, and we can talk New York Knicks or just NBA basketball, whatever you want. And Ronnie, for your second question, how do I feel about the return of the WNBA? So I haven't been too big of a WNBA follower, but if I had to choose a favorite team, I would say it's the Minnesota Lynx. My favorite women's college player of all time, Maya Moore, played for them, but since then, I think her last season was in 2018, I want to say, and she's taken the last 2 years off. This year, she's taking the season off because she wants to focus more on criminal justice stuff, which I totally respect and I'm perfectly okay with. But I have followed the WNBA. For example, I did a live stream of the 2017 WNBA Finals, Game 5, between the LA Sparks and the Minnesota Lynx, because the previous season in 2016, the Sparks and Lynx had met in the WNBA Finals, and although it was the Sparks who won the championship in the end, unfortunately, it was a great game. And I'm just like, ooh, I want to watch the WNBA Finals next year. And it just so happened to be the Sparks and the Lynx. So I'm just like, it's Game 5. It's winner take all. I want to do a live stream during this. And so that's what I did. I kind of wish the WNBA playoffs would take on the format of the NBA playoffs, not to do East against West. I love that the WNBA, doesn't do playoffs or conferences in the playoffs. What I'm saying is I would much rather watch a 7-game series than a 5-game series. When a series ends in 5 games, for me, it just feels like you're getting cut short. Like, yeah, I was happy that the Lynx won the championship in Game 5, but I'm like, there could have been more to this series. Like, what happens if the series would have gone back to Los Angeles for a Game 6? What happens if the series would have gone to a Game 7 back in Minnesota? Like, you don't know. Because personally, when a series ends in a sweep, which is 4 games, or 5 games, I'm just like, really? That was it? Like, why? For example, and Ronnie, I will get back to your second question with the MLB, but I want to talk about this first. When the Milwaukee Bucks played the Detroit Pistons in the playoffs, I believe this was last season, if I remember correctly, the Bucks blew out the Pistons in all 4 games of the series. I think in Game 2, the Bucks won by like 40, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. But the series just wasn't competitive. And you're like, Detroit, why are you in the playoffs if you're not going to give Milwaukee a challenge? I mean, at least in 2007, when the Cavaliers got swept by the Spurs in the finals, we at least gave San Antonio a challenge. Now, I personally think we overachieved a little bit in 2007, but that's a different discussion for a different day. I personally wish I could, go back and watch that 2007 playoff run. But like I've said many times, the NBA decided to remove their digital content, both from iTunes and Amazon Prime, so I can't do that. And I'm still upset at the NBA for that. But I'm going to save that. But let's get back to your question, Ronnie. What do you think of the MLB situation? At this point, I hate to say this, but I don't think we will be getting baseball this year. I really don't. I want there to be baseball. Trust me, I do. Like, I want to see what the Cubs look like on the field this season. I want to see their rivalry against the Cardinals. I want to see that the Indians play the Yankees. I want to see, what the Seattle Mariners are going to look like this season. I want to see, what are the Washington Nationals going to look like this season now that they're the defending World Series champions? Are the San Diego Padres going to take another step forward? Can the Los Angeles Dodgers overcome their recent playoff demons and win it all? Granted, essentially nobody won the 2017 World Series since the Houston Astros cheated. I'm sorry, but the Astros, you guys cheated. You should lose your World Series championship. And I'm still upset about that because Game 5 of that series between the Dodgers and Astros in Houston was one of the best games I've ever seen. Come on, 13-12. You're down 4-1 in the bottom of the fifth. Yuli Gurriel hits a bomb to center field to tie the game. And then Altuve comes back an inning later and hits a home run off Kenta Maeda and gives the Astros the lead. And you're and then Puig comes back and hits a home run a couple innings later. And then Cody Bellinger hits a home run for the Dodgers, giving him a 7-4 lead. But the Astros say, no, we're not quitting. And it was just such a back and forth style game. And I'm like, this is fantastic. This is what baseball is about. Now, did it get up into the football range of scoring? Yeah, but who the heck cares? And then to come out, find out, oh yeah, during our home games, we had a camera, so we knew what pitch was coming, and you're just like, really? Really? You're going to ruin the integrity of the game by cheating and ruin potentially one of the greatest World Series. As a Cubs fan, there is one World Series where I will say this was the best World Series of all time. Ta-da! 2016. Why? Because the Cubs won. Go, Cubs, go. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? Cubs are gonna win today. Go, Cubs, go. Go, Cubs, go. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? Cubs are gonna win today. Sorry, I had to do that. I'm a diehard Cubs fan, although I've never been to Wrigley Field. But anyway, sorry, Ronnie. I know I'm not directly answering your question. But like I said, I want baseball to be a thing because I want to know, like I said, what are the Washington Nationals going to look like now that they're the defending World Series champions, but they lost Anthony Rendon to the Angels? What are the Angels going to look like now that they have Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, and Anthony Rendon? Can the Dodgers overcome their playoff demons? Can the San Diego Padres take another step forward with Manny Machado, Eric Hosmer, Fernando Tatis Jr.? What's Madison Bumgarner going to look like in another jersey? Because remember, he signed with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So he's no longer with the San Francisco Giants. What are the Seattle Mariners going to look like this season without both Ichiro and King Felix? We have all these questions, but because the Major League Baseball and the Players Association can't come to an agreement, we're not going to be able to find out an answer to these questions. And my other question is, what are the Yankees going to look like? Are they for sure the team to beat in the AL East? And if they meet the Houston Astros, what type of series are we going to get? You have all of these questions, but like I said, Major League Baseball and the Players Association can't come to an agreement. It'll be like the owners will send a proposal and the Players Association will be like, nope, here's a proposal right back. And the Major League Baseball will be like, no, we don't like that offer. Here's a counter offer. And it's just a back and forth. It's like there's got to be something in one of the offers where you're like, okay, we can work with this, so let's try and build something off of that. But no, it's like we go from, here, how about a 79-game schedule to, nope, how about a 114-game schedule with full pay? And then we get, nope, how about an 89-game schedule with half of the pay? And it's like, can't you guys come to an agreement on something for once, please?
Here's something I found on the web. According to blogspot.com, you guys rock.
I have no idea what that was about. That was weird. Because I did not say her name. Welcome to all the people watching. If you have questions or comments about anything I'm discussing, please feel free to write it. I will gladly, discuss your comment or answer your question during this video, like what I'm doing with Ronnie's question. Which, Ronnie, I know I gave you somewhat of an extended answer for all of that, but hopefully I answered your questions. Comment in below if you feel like I did. Oh, we got another question from Ronnie. What do you think of our Cleveland Cavaliers, Browns, and Indians futures? Are you aware of the Cavs losing one of their top front office executives in Brock Aller, who helped the Cavs trade for J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert during LeBron's second stint with our Cavs? He is headed to the New York Knicks' new-look front office under Leon Rose, who took over after James Dolan decided to part ways with Stephen Mills prior to the coronavirus pandemic, I believe. Okay, why would anybody want to work for the New York Knicks right now? Seriously, they are, like I said before, they are one of the worst run organizations I have ever seen. Like, James Dolan, who's the owner of the Knicks, he threw out Charles Oakley from Madison Square Garden. You know how big of a star Charles Oakley is for the Knicks? He has his jersey retired. He's a Knicks legend. And you're going to throw him out? What? And you're going to create problems with Spike Lee, who's one of the biggest Knicks fans? He's at every game for some reason. I don't know why. He tries to attend as many road games as possible, and you're going to create problems with him? What? And then on top of it, like, all these franchises are releasing statements about Black Lives Matter, and they're mentioning stuff about George Floyd, which I love that teams are doing this. But here's the only thing that worries me, all right? Like, let's say the Baltimore Ravens release a statement, and then the Tennessee Titans see the Baltimore Ravens statement, and they go, okay, we're just going to release pretty much the same statement as the Ravens. We're just going to change a couple words. To me, that means the Titans' statement isn't genuine. So what worries me is that it's great that all these teams are releasing statements about George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. I love it. I really do. But again, my concern is, are you being genuine with your fans and your city when you release these statements? For example, if the Ravens release a statement, are they being genuine to the people of Baltimore? Because again, they are the Baltimore Ravens. Or if the Cleveland Browns were to release a statement, are they releasing a statement that, that fits the city of Cleveland? Do you see what I mean? I love that. Again, I don't have an issue with teams releasing statements, whether it's the Cleveland Cavaliers or the San Antonio Spurs or the New York Yankees, Philadelphia 76ers, Pittsburgh Penguins, Columbus Crew. I love that these teams are releasing statements, and I completely support them. 100% Black Lives Matter. And George Floyd should not have been, killed in the way he was. I don't really want to get into all that political stuff right now, but I'm just saying he should not have been. But again, my concern is how many of these statements released by the teams are actually genuine. How do we know they're genuine? How do we know that, the Green Bay Packers statement isn't just a copycat statement off of what the New Orleans Saints said? Do you see what I'm saying? How do we know that these teams aren't just playing copycat? And like I said, I don't want these teams to play copycat. I want these teams, when they release their statements, to be genuine, unique to their city, but still come across with the message of Black Lives Matter and mention George Floyd and the other people who were killed. I do think it's interesting, and Ronnie, I will get back to your question, but I want to mention this first. It's not often that I say this team's name because I find their name and logo to be racist, discriminatory, stereotypical, whatever type of word you want to put there. But for this little discussion that I'm having, I will say their name. Like I said, normally I choose not to. It's my way of protest. The Washington Redskins, released a statement about, racist, about this whole thing with Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and all this and that. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, Washington, how can you release a statement about racism when your team name and your logo is racist? The pieces just don't fit together. So that bothers me. Again, I like that they released a statement, but at the same time, I don't. Because in a way, it almost sounds hypocritical to be like, we will not tolerate racism, but your team name and logo is racist. What? Washington, you're going to need to explain it yourself a little bit. Now, Ronnie, your original question. Sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I do that sometimes. What do you think of our Cleveland Cavaliers, Browns, and Indians futures? Okay, So let's start with the Browns. All right. So they have a tough schedule coming up. Let me pull it up here. Hold on one second. Here we go. Go back to Zoom here and share screen. Oh, screen share. All right, so here we have the Cleveland Browns schedule. So week 1 at Baltimore, week 2, Thursday night football against Cincinnati, week 3, home against Washington, week 4 at the Dallas Cowboys, who think they're America's team, but they're really not. Week 5, they come home to take on my favorite team from the AFC South, the Indianapolis Colts. Week 6, they're at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Browns have not won in Pittsburgh since 2003. Week 7, they're at Cincinnati. Week 8, they're home to take on the Las Vegas Raiders. Still weird to call them the Las Vegas Raiders and not the Oakland Raiders. Week 9 is their bye week. Week 10, the Browns are at home to take on Deshaun Watson, Bill O'Brien, and the Houston Texans. Week 11, they're at home to take on Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts, Doug Peterson, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Week 12, they travel down to Florida to take on my other favorite team from the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's because Maurice Jones-Drew is one of my favorite players of all time. Unfortunately, he will not end up in the Hall of Fame anytime soon. Week 13, they have a tough test against the Tennessee Titans on the road. Are the Titans legitimate, or was last year a fluke? We'll have to see. Week 14, they have Monday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. Week 15, Odell Beckham Jr. returns to New York to take on the Giants. I put New York in quotation marks because the Giants stadium isn't actually in New York. It's in New Jersey. Week 16, the Browns will be at the New York Jets. Again, I put New York in quotation marks because their stadium is in New Jersey. And week 17, the Browns are home to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, while I'm on the schedule for the Browns, if you guys know any YouTubers for any of these teams, please let me know in the comment section below, because I want to make it a goal to do a video preview with the Browns' opponent's YouTuber for that week. So for week 1 at the Ravens, I'll probably reach out to Engraven Vids. I don't know any Bengals YouTuber. I think I have an idea of who I could reach out for the Washington game. I don't know any Cowboys YouTubers. I'm not sure of a Colts YouTuber. Don't know about a Pittsburgh YouTuber. Like I said, I need a Cincy YouTuber. I might have a Raiders YouTuber I could reach out to. I don't know any Houston Texans YouTubers. I might know a Eagles fan. I don't know any Jaguars YouTubers. Don't know of any Titans YouTubers. For the Ravens, I'll reach out to Engraven Vids again. I'm not sure of a Giants YouTuber. For the Jets, I'll reach out to Gangrene David and see if he's interested. And I don't know of any Steelers YouTubers. So if you guys know anybody who could fit any of those teams, please, 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 whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube, write in the comments and I'll reach out to that person as long as you tell me what the name of the YouTuber is and which of these teams he or she fits with. And I'll reach out to them and see if they would be interested in doing a video collaboration during the week that the Browns play them. Yeah. So, anyway, what do I think of the Browns' future? Well, it all depends, really, on what type of quarterback play are we going to get from Baker Mayfield? Are we going to get the Baker Mayfield that we saw in 2018, who burst onto the scene after Tyrod Taylor got injured in week 3 against the Jets, which that was a very unfortunate way for Baker Mayfield to, start his career. And then Baker Mayfield eventually tore things up once Freddie Kitchens became the offensive coordinator. I was at the Atlanta game, which was highlighted by Nick Chubb's 92-yard run that resulted in a touchdown. Unfortunately, the Browns decided to shoot off fireworks after that, which I have said many times, I hate fireworks. So hopefully in the future, they will get rid of those pyrotechnics, because I personally struggle with them. I've come to the realization that I shouldn't be afraid to admit that, even on social media. Maybe by saying something, other people will come forward and be like, hey, I struggle with pyrotechnics as well. And maybe the Cleveland Indians and or the Cleveland Browns will see that and be like, we need to change this. Because right now, I can't go to nighttime Indians games because I'm too afraid of the fireworks. It's both the visual and the sound. It's the same thing with Browns games. I struggle with nighttime games for the Browns. So that's why generally I try to avoid nighttime Browns games. And I only try to go to the afternoon games. So we'll see. The future of the Cavs, though. I like that we kept JB Bickerstaff, but I don't like how he became our head coach by, because we had the whole pushing John Beeline out the door and all those shenanigans. So I didn't like that part. But once JB Bickerstaff took over, for the short time that the Cavs were able to play, they seemed to play better. Think about this. On back-to-back nights, they beat the Denver Nuggets in a close game, 104-102. And on the second night, they beat the San Antonio Spurs in overtime. That was the last Cavs game I was actually able to attend, actually. And by winning both those games, the Cavaliers swept the Denver Nuggets and they swept the San Antonio Spurs. Now, the Spurs aren't one of the top teams in the Western Conference this season, but normally they are. So that's still huge to be able to sweep the Spurs. And like I said, the Denver Nuggets are one of the top teams in the Western Conference. Right now, they have the third best record in the West. So for the Cavaliers to be able to sweep them is huge. So, yeah. So I like where we're going. But here's the thing. You have Andre Drummond, you have Kevin Love, you have Tristan Thompson, and you have Larry Nance Jr. You could throw Kevin Porter Jr. in the mix there too. Who do you keep? Who do you get rid of? And if you do get rid of a player, how do you do it? Do you trade Tristan Thompson? Do you just let Andre Drummond walk? Do you trade Tristan Thompson? What do you do? I say keep Larry Nance Jr. and keep Kevin Porter Jr. because I think they'll both grow with the young core. But do you keep Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love because they were both part of that 2016 championship team? Do you keep Andre Drummond since you pretty much only had to give up a hand sandwich to get him? Hold on one sec. So, like, Andre Drummond doesn't really fit in with what the NBA is doing right now because big men have to be able to shoot the three-pointer. Andre Drummond can't really do that. So, I know you had to give up a ham sandwich for him, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to keep him. So, it's interesting to think about. Indians, I don't think if we do have baseball, I don't think they're going to win the division. I think we saw the changing of the guard last year with the Minnesota Twins winning the division. Sorry, Indians fans, but I think the Indians' window to win the World Series closed after 2017. I mean, they were up 2-0 against the New York Yankees, and they had the opportunity to close it out, and they didn't. And then go back to 2016. They were up 3-1 in that World Series. Of course, again, what happened? The city of Cleveland got a taste of its own medicine because, again, the Cavaliers came back from a 3-1 deficit to beat the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. But they were not the first team to bring home an NBA champion, to bring home a championship in 2016. I will take this to my grave. The first championship which was brought to Cleveland in 2016 was when Stipe Miocic defeated Fabrizio Verdum at UFC 198 in Curitiba, Brazil. And then that was followed by the Lake Erie Monsters defeating the Hershey Bears in Game 4 of the Calder Cup Finals in front of 19,665 fans, which was the first true sellout in the history of the then Lake Erie Monsters, the second largest crowd for the history of the AHL. Yeah. So Cleveland cares about hockey. So, yeah. I wonder what would happen if Cleveland had an NHL team. I just wonder about that. You never know. But that's going to wrap things up for this video. If you enjoyed it, punch that like button like a UFC fighter and punch that subscribe button. Until next time, this is UngarToTheMax signing off with a salute to you.